Hello! So today's gonna be a VOD review of a SYNDRA game. So, my opinion of SYNDRA has like kind of gone up and down, and things have been nerfed and adjusted. I think SYNDRA is incredibly strong, especially in the current meta, like the current patch. So I really like to, if you have a good spot for SYNDRA, to definitely consider playing towards it. I'm not sure when the last SYNDRA video I did was. When I was climbing, a lot of these VODs might be slightly repetitive, but at the same time, if you're learning TFT, it's really good to see like different variations of similar boards. But this was when I was like climbing really aggressively. So when I was climbing, basically, right now I'm at like 0 LP and I'm just like trying out lots of comps. If you look at my like tracker, my LP page, it's basically just me playing the most random shit possible. Just because I'm like trying them out, because I'm basically master 0 LP, so I'm like, now's the best chance to any comp that I haven't tried before, try it out now, because then like starting next week or starting in like whenever I feel like I'm having like a couple good games, I can then like focus up, right? This was like right before that. This was right when I was still like grinding up a little bit. I ended up losing all the LP, but that's totally fine. I'm gonna grind it back after. So that's what I mean. Some of the VODs with the wins might be a little bit redundant, because basically, if you're trying to climb, you have to play like very reliable comps, which basically means that you're playing like the same couple 4 or 5 comps that are like the best ones, unless you have like a really good spot to play something else, right? Here in my opener, I haven't played this. I don't think I had like one game that I was contested, so it wasn't a real game, but I never got to play like Zyra, reroll with Shen reroll. Like, that's a very common line that you might see. I do have like a tier and a glove. Maybe I can make it work. So I'm kind of angling myself towards playing Zyra Shen, right? That's what my game plan is, particularly in this game. I end up playing SYNDRA, obviously. We'll see why after. Silver Spoon is pretty good in the stats and stuff. I think that it's like just being like level 5. Like, the higher your level that you can find quality units, it just helps a lot. The other ones don't really synergize well with my board, and it's a silver augment, so I decide to just like, let's just go for it. I think it's not champion conference, the one that gives you a unit that is related to your team. So what that means is I'll also just easily find a Morgana / Kane, so I can fit in my Ghostly later if I need to, which is great. So basically I just have like 2 Ghostly, 2 Behemoth. I don't really know what to slam here, right? I'm not really gonna slam like usually Protector's Vow is something you can slam, but I don't want to waste this tier because I need it for like a frontline unit, right? Usually you slam something like Protector's Vow if you have items and you're playing towards like an AD backline where you won't need the tier long term, because it's a pretty decent item on a lot of units, right? Especially since there's a lot of frontline units that like to cast a lot. Anyways, while we go through this stage, this stage, it's a little bit like this guy's gonna be very strong. He already slammed items. I'm kind of deciding like exactly what I'm gonna play. The thing that you should always be wary of, this is like a really good teachable moment. You'll see why. Basically, I'm level 5, right? I have a 2% chance of hitting a 4 cost, and we'll see what happens in the next couple turns. But you should always be fluid and flexible. You should always evaluate your spot and decide, is my spot good for this particular comp, or is my spot good for another comp? Is there a way that I can make things work? As you can see, I see the world's earliest SYNDRA. It's stage 2-3 and there's a SYNDRA. So I'm kind of like, well, Syndra's definitely stronger than like just playing like an extra like Caitlyn, right, for extra damage. I have everybody deafened, right? Sorry, I'm circling where the chat would be. But I'm pretty sure this guy's just some like shitter that's just like fucking spam pinging me because the whole lobby's coming to see. Fighting a Syndra early, yes, it's good, but it's not like game winning, right? I still have to pivot my board, right? I see this guy that's going towards Ghostly, right? Sometimes you might pass up on them, right? If it's a Syndra, if it's a Lilia, if it's anybody that you can play the spot, I'm kind of thinking to myself, okay, it's definitely stronger right now. It sacrificed a little bit of econ, so it is risky to play like these 4 costs really early in the game. But basically, what I think to myself is, the Syndra should pay off, hopefully later, just by being like a really strong and powerful unit. Anyways, this guy was spam pinging me. I beat him. Good for him. I don't understand sometimes these players, like, they always seem like they're angry all the time. I think it's just like the nature of being in Master. Like, you lose a lot of games and then you're like really sad. Here I have a Shen. And I also have Faded that I can fit in. So I think I should pivot my whole board this turn. I make the Shen too because maybe I can win streak. But I should buy the Thresh and the Kindred, and I can swap out this, and I can play like, yeah, basically. Like play Strongest Board, play Kindred, pair up Faded, right? And I still have Ghostly in, and Ghostly's really good for like early game streaking. This isn't like your traditional, this is a strong Faded board. And then this guy's pinging again, I think. I have everything muted because like it's just so annoying all the time to deal with these people. This guy's angling Zyra as well. There's another guy angling like Senna Ghostly. So instead of like playing like the thing, even though I have a Shen too, right? I'm 100% not playing Zyra, right? Now it does hurt me that I'm not making 10 gold right here. My board is very expensive, right? I always tell people when you're playing TFT, typically you want board value. If you're going to streak, you'll make up the gold anyways. So you really have to streak, right? So upgrading that Shen and having the Thresh, it makes me broke, right? For a large portion of this game. But you have to be like weary of that. You have to be like prepared that I'm doing this for a good reason, right? I strongly believe that with an early Syndra and Faded in and Thresh and everything that I can streak this stage, right? So that's why I am breaking that rule of not making econ and not establishing econ, because I will be broke for a lot of the stage. I need to win streak now. If I don't win streak, there's a good chance I go bot 4, even with this opener, right? So it's a very risky thing that I'm doing, but it's not necessarily bad. That's why like I get annoyed when people are like spam pinging it, because it's like if one person high rolls a couple upgrades, I can easily lose this and then I'm broke and then I go bot 4. You know what I mean? It's not like, it's not crazy, right? But people are so obsessed with being like, now I got blue buff, so I'm definitely like a lot more stable. I don't know how I got tier being like this late of a pick, but whatever. That's what I mean. Just like focus on your own game a lot of the times, right? It's good to scout, it's good to ping, it's good to be like engaged in other boards just so you know what's up, right? But like don't like I feel like this guy's multiple times like bitching about my board, right? Because like the way like everybody's like looking at my board, and it happens again later in the game. It's like I might lose to this guy with the Kiana. You know what I mean? If he had Kiana too. Like if this guy had Kiana upgraded, there's a good chance I'd probably lose against this guy. Look how close it is. Actually, I might lose anyways. Right? That's what I mean. If this guy had Kiana 2, I lose against him 100% of the time. And it's not even hard to hit Kiana 2. He's Kiana paired, right? And he's more rich than me. You know what I mean? It's like, it's very, it's not, this isn't like the most, like, you know, you don't get this and you think to yourself like, oh, this guy won the game for free. Anyways, I find Alawi. Alawi's a little bit expensive, but I could sell everything. I'm kind of still holding on to these units because it didn't really allow me to make econ anyways, but now I should sell them to make 20. I can also hold Ari and Aphelios because then I can have my tie-in next turn. Here I switch the Kindred out because usually you want Kindred in to get Dryad stacks early. They're really important. But in this case, I don't have Dryad in, right? So it is what it is. This guy looks like he's angling Syndra as well, just in terms of items and having a Faded opener. But I am very strong right now, right? Having this Ari to pair the Syndra. We'll talk about it a bit later, but you usually want to pair Ari and Syndra just because of the damage output. For right now, we'll just do the little thing. Thank you for all the support. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. We're going to have an RP giveaway at 500 subs. We just finished our previous giveaway, so make sure to subscribe if you want to be entered in that. And follow the instructions when we get close to our goal. Thank you. Also, I feel like in the last couple of videos, my music audio has been a lot lower. I was rewatching some of them. Do you guys think I should boost the music a little bit? Just because like I don't know, like for me, I like having a little bit more volume in the music when I'm watching a video, but I understand that the preference of that might be different. But I don't want to do like any change because like, you know, people seem to be liking the content so far, so you know, we'll see how it goes. I don't really get another Syndra item. I don't really want to make a TG here because I'd rather just make like a proper frontline item like Steadfast. Here I get an Alawi. I'm holding on to these Nars because if I can fit in a Nar over somebody, then I can start getting Dryad stacks in. I'm debating if I level or not, right? If I level and I get a 5 streak, that's going to be worth it. So yeah, I level for Nar, I put in the Kindred, and I pair the Syndra and the Kindred. After the augment choice, we'll go over the board evaluation and like basically what we can do with playing around Syndra. I'm debating making TG or not. I think my item economy works out better if I just make I just make a Sunfire. I hold on to it. I don't slam the TG. It might be a better idea to slam the TG. This guy as well. If he has a Kiana too, there's a good chance I lose these early game fights. Because look at this Kiana. Like, they even nerfed the Kiana slightly. Kiana's fucking broken. I made a video on it if you watch my channel. But yeah, I still beat him, which is great. So now, basically, all that gold that I wasted early game that didn't establish my econ, as you can see, we're on augment choice. We're basically like we're basically fine. Like, we recovered the econ because we streaked and we got like all the streaking gold and all the winning gold. Here I'm actually looking up the stats. That's why I'm not picking it really early. I was trying to see like what the best radiant item on SYNDRA is, if radiant refractor is good, because radiant blue should be good. Usually radiant blue is one of the best radiants like historically, but I don't know particularly in this case if it's good. Roll the dice. I don't really feel like taking. It's either Jeweled Lotus or Baboom. I think I looked it up, and I think Baboom is just a little bit better. Baboom's really good when you have low mana units. I've talked about Baboom Kindred. I actually had a game yesterday where somebody played Baboom Kindred. It wasn't me, it was somebody else in the lobby, and they just fucking Giga won. So I'm like, oh shit, people are like figuring it out, right? It's like the first time I actually saw somebody take Baboom and hard force Kindred like I usually do. I could also hard force Kindred from this spot. If I natural a bunch of Kindreds, that's my out basically. That's why Baboom kind of works out really nicely, and it also makes me immediately strong. I think Jeweled Lotus is also good. Now let's look at the stats, and we'll go over like a board and all that stuff. So in terms of stats, let's just like, right, this little part is just like for like teaching, right? If we go Syndra and we go 2-star Syndra, right, and we go items and we go Delta, right, and we go craftable and radiant, right? Some of these are just like, you know, obviously like, you know, if you're just having her in like a random ass game, right? If I'm going like this and I'm going like 5 faded, for example, it's usually like blue buff Nashers is typically the one that's really good, right? Blue buff Nashers, and then like it says guard breaker is good. This is usually like an item economy thing. Shiv is good. Jeweled Gauntlet. If you're going like unit, let's just go like open up a new tab for units, right? I do this a lot. I show it all the time usually. You can go to units, you can go item trios, and then we can go like placement. I think it's just regular placement. Like there's a lot of, because you play Syndra on like the max cap sniper build, a lot of times you see like the sniper emblem in a lot of these, and Dryad if you're playing like the 6 Dryad variation. But typically you'll see like in the most games played, you typically have like a blue buff Nashers +1, right? It's usually blue buff Nashers JG, which I expect to be somewhere, yeah, somewhere like here, right? Or blue buff Rabadons, Nashers, right? Usually you're making like a blue buff and some sort of build. There's like the double adaptive helm build, which I think in this patch, it's still a newer patch, right? If we go to the previous patch, it's a little bit more clear, right? You have all the snipers, all the porcelains, and then you have like this one that's like a very like specific build, and then it's usually like the typical things. It's usually like you see a lot of the time it's just like blue buff Nashers or Nashers and adaptive helm, or sorry, adaptive helm and blue buff, or adaptive helm and one other mana item, right? So they're pretty flexible. I wouldn't worry too much about the items. But basically what I'm trying to show is that in terms of like radiant items, there's not that many that are really good. Like Blue Blessing was actually like not as good as I thought. Like it says like there's a lot less of a sample size, but I think it just doesn't work out. So I didn't want to take the radiant item because I don't think it would have worked out as good. If we look here in terms of placement, pumping up is always really good because the attack speed is really good, but Boom is also really good, right? More so than Jeweled Gauntlet, right? I think Jeweled Gauntlet, or sorry, Jeweled Lotus, it still like increases the placement by a lot, but I felt like Baboom, it increases the placement by a lot more just because of the low mana threshold that Syndra has, right? So I ended up taking Baboom here, and I think that was like the right choice. If we're going in terms of like the team builder, like the board, typically what you're trying to play is a Dryad hybrid Syndra board. This is like the board that I'm going for. It's something along the lines of you play 4 Dryad, right? You get your Dryad stacks in early so that your board is very strong, and then you play 5 faded, right? Syndra and what's it called? and set, right? And thresh. There we go. So typically what you have is you have a setup kind of like this. You usually spread out your units a little bit. Azir is really nice to have in the middle because the way that he shoots his beam, he kind of just like spams like in a crescent shape like over here, so he can help shred the tanks. Kindred can kind of hold some utility items like Morello if you're making Morello, red buff if you're making red buff, etc. And then Syndra, basically you're trying to pair Syndra with Ahri. It gives you a bunch of AP and it makes Syndra like really strong, and your front line is really strong because if you get your Dryad stacks in early, so like stage 2 and stage 3, then your front line's gonna have a bunch of HP, especially this Ornn, which you can itemize, and then the Ornn becomes like unkillable, right? Now one thing to note, I don't think it shows it. How do I show it with full board? Here we go. So like when you're playing this board, right, there's many different meta comms, right? So there's Lee Sin, there is Lilia, there is Kai'Sa, and there is Ashe, right? I'll put them on this side of the board, right? The main thing I want to say is like matchup spread, right? Something that you might not think about when you're playing certain comps is like how they do relative to certain matchups, right? When you're playing something like Syndra, you run into you actually have like, how do I phrase it? It's one of the best matchup spreads in the game, right? So typically when you're playing, like for example, let's say you're playing Duelist, right? You're playing against Lee Sin, right? I'll do it like this, so those ones are cut off, right? If you're playing against like Lee Sin and Duelist, right? That's like one of the more common boards. You typically pair Ahri and Syndra. Your front line is tanky enough that the Duelists get caught, and you're trying to position your Syndra to try to burst down the Lee Sin. Because Lee Sin's typically like the problem unit, and the other units kind of like you can deal with them after a lot of the time, right? You'll have enough frontline and damage to deal with it. It's mostly if you get the Lee Sin like kind of wipes out your front line too soon, and then your Syndra dies. So a lot of times you're trying to like just position at least the Azir and the Syndra to like single target like the Lee Sin. At least that's how I play around it. And then you just want to do max damage because you want to burst down the Lee Sin as soon as possible. So you pair the Syndra and the Ahri, right? Similarly, this is how you play against the Ashe board as well. Right, when you're playing against Ashe, which typically looks something like this, depending on whose front line is better, you're typically trying to like, you know, try your best to avoid Nautilus stun, and you want to be on the same side as the Ashe, right? Just because if you're on opposite side of the Ashe and it comes down to a final fight, the Ashe is gonna have the damage to destroy you because of Sniper, right? Sniper scales off of distance, right? So you want to typically position your Syndra towards the Ashe, right? That's typically how you play it. And again, you're pairing Ahri and Syndra because you want to melt through their front line, right? If you can kill their front line and get to the Ashe first, you win the fight, right? This is a very front to back style comp. Now, there's a big difference when you play Lilia and Kai'Sa, right? When you play Lilia and Kai'Sa, the problem with Lilia and Kai'Sa is that they're like backline access comps, right? When Lilia attacks, she like bursts and she shoots the backline, right? So a lot of times your backline dies before your front line dies. So when you're playing against a Lilia board, typically what you want to do is you want to pair Syndra with Set, right? You don't worry about Syndra and Ahri, you worry about Syndra with Set. The reason you pair Syndra and Set, now if you don't have a Set, typically it's like really difficult, so you're kind of stuck to pair Syndra and Ahri, but you pair Syndra and Set because then what happens is you gain Omnivamp on all your faded units. So if the Lilia and the Kai'Sa R&D try and kill your Syndra, right? If one of these units tries to hit your backline and hit your Syndra can then recover a lot of the HP with the Set, right? You're compensated by your front line for having like extra tankiness as well on your Set and your Thresh. They have a little bit of Omnivamp, as well as your Kindred and your Ahri. But basically, having your Kindred and your Ahri also have Omnivamp makes it so that like if Lilia tries to one-shot the Kindred or one-shot the Ahri, those two also stay as targets, like almost like they gain like that extra tankiness from pairing with the Set. So it makes it a lot easier on these fights as well. So if you know this trick that you pair Syndra and Set in these particular backline accesses, if you look at all of the like quote-unquote meta comps, right? So long as you hit like your whole board, right? If you hit like all these units and you're like fairly strong, you have a good matchup against all of the quote-unquote meta comps, right? Of course, people can outscale you if they have a bunch of legendary units, right? There's other boards, like if someone's playing an Irelia carry in some like really max cap boards, you lose really hard because even with the Set, the Irelia just spreads so much damage that is really difficult, right? But this is like a general idea that Syndra usually feel really reliable. The problem is you have to streak early, right? That's like the biggest problem with SYNDRA. The biggest problem with SYNDRA is that you need to have Dryad stacks in order to make your front line viable. Then if you don't have Dryad stacks, you can't play Dryad, and then you have to find like some creative other board where you're playing like a Nautilus and something else, but usually those units are contested, so then you're just fucked. You're just fucked altogether, right? But in general, what you're trying to do is, like, how do I phrase it? You're trying to be really strong early. If you're not strong early, you run into a situation where you're probably can't really play SYNDRA, right? You have to have like a faded opener, you have to have Dryad stacks, your Dryad units have to be like getting stronger, and etc. Anyways, because it's champion delivery, I'm going to be SYNDRA paired, which is really nice because I have the SYNDRA already. I make Nashers on the SYNDRA. I'm kind of stuck with these 2 gloves. I really want to make like a jeweled gauntlet. So I'm not, it's probably going to be a Slamma TG at this point, just because, like, you know, I need to try and live. As you can see, I do have a lot of HP that I'm working with. I did lose 1 fight. As you can see, I lost the fight right before. So I'm not like particularly like insanely strong. This guy also hit a SYNDRA and has a faded crown, but their augments are not that good because I have like actual combat augments and this guy doesn't. But they are very strong. They're probably stronger than me right now. And that's an important distinction, right? Because even though I hit this SYNDRA early, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, even, like, I guess he hit the SYNDRA on the champion delivery, probably. But even though I hit the SYNDRA early, as you can see, this guy's full streaking and is stronger than me. We're equally as rich. They're streaking this stage, and they have more HP than me, right? So I just want to point out, anyways, so Freaky Friday isn't necessarily the best, and so is Ghostly. I end up just taking Harm Assist here. Basically what Harm Assist does is it's just some sort of combat, right? If it's a prismatic combat, I just want to make sure that I'm strong relatively late in the game because I feel like I have a good chance to win this game, right? The other augments aren't that great. Here I'm gonna roll deep because I'm trying to find this SYNDRA upgrade. I'm just upgrading these units because for now, even though I'm 4 faded, you know, anyways, I find a set, so now I can swap out somebody. I think it'll swap out Alawi actually. But, yeah, well, I put him back in anyways. I'm 5 faded. As you can see, I'm only 2 Dryad, right? I find an Azir. I maybe hit this Gnar 3 because I'm just finding the Gnars. And then I found a SYNDRA, right? So if I lose this fight, it's going to be really bad because I would have had SYNDRA too. I just didn't roll deep enough. But, yeah, typically you're rolling really deep here. There's not much you have to hit on 9, right? Like, what am I putting in on level 9? Right? Usually you go 9 to guarantee finding a set 2. And you can play like an extra Dryad if you have a Dryad spat, right? But typically, like, this comp is pretty complete on level 8. The only thing I have to do now is I have to switch out one of the, like, I basically have to lose, like, I need an Ornn, basically. And here's the Ornn. So now that I have Ornn, it's like sell Alawi, put in Azir, and put in Ornn. And now I'm 4 Dryad, 5 faded. So my front line gets a lot tankier. And I also have all these Gnars. I naturaled a bunch of Gnars, right? There's another Gnar right here that I'm going to buy. So I'm 1 off of Gnar 3, which is pretty good for me, right? With Baboom, remember what I was saying is, like, if you hit, like, Gnar 3, Kindred 3, then you can play, like, the Gnar reroll line. For me, at least, up until now, I didn't find that many Kindreds. So I decided to just play around this SYNDRA, right? Because I have a SYNDRA too. Right? Typically, like, if you don't hit SYNDRA and you take Baboom with Dryad is very fucking strong. So if you natural a bunch of copies like this, I could have just played towards Kindred and Gnar, but my items didn't really work out that way, right? If I had, like, lots of swords, for example, right? Swords are really bad on the SYNDRA comp because there's nothing you can really do, right? Anyways, I basically, like, rolling deep on 8, this was very high roll, right? This is why I'm in a position to play for first in this game. Because I hit the Azir and the set, right? But as you can see, the other SYNDRA player is full streaking. They're in equally as good a spot as me. But anyways, yeah. Champion Deliver, I'm also almost guaranteed to get a set too, because I'm going to get a set for sure on the next Champion Delivery. So I'm going to have set paired. But basically, I upgraded almost everybody. My front line's a little bit weak because I don't have Ornn 2. But it's a little bit hard to justify rolling just for Ornn here. Here, I'm just going to take a... I'm just going to do the classic build. I'm not sure if there's like a better build right now, especially since they slightly changed SYNDRA. Right? They like did like nerf / buff SYNDRA in the last patch. So I'm not sure entirely what the best build is. I still have to like figure it out myself and wait for some numbers to come in, right? Because right now like the sample size are a little bit awkward. But anyways, I'm just pairing Ari. Now I have Harm Assist, so I don't think I ever have to pair with Set. Remember I was talking like you need some Omnivamp against those like front backline access comps. So I can always just pump out damage because I have Harm Assist anyways. And like if I do more damage, I'll just heal more. I'm trying to spread out my units just in case I play against a unit that has spread. And here I want to be on same side as Lee Sin, right? Hopefully they don't wrap. This is like the only problem. This Darius kind of wrapped on my Syndra. But I want to try and burst down this Lee Sin as soon as possible. Just to make sure that I can win. And then I try and kill this Kiana that's just like being a nuisance on the other side. I'm going to try and go level 9. There's no need to really roll for Gnar here specifically. So I'm just kind of like chilling. And then I have this leftover Hodge. I don't feel a need to slam it right now. I'm Ornn paired. I could roll for Ornn, right? But instead I'd rather just play towards Faded. Now, I think the way that it works is I don't know if I get an Azir or a Set. I'm pretty sure I get a Set because I think the way Champion Delivery works is like whatever you have more units of is what you get. It's not necessarily like the order that appears on the left-hand side, right? When you get like a tailored unit to your board, it's typically like whichever you have the most of on your board. But anyways, hitting the Set early is also big because I scale really late, right? The set is continuing to scale upwards, which is really nice. This guy's really, this is the guy that's pinging me, and he's walking around. I don't know what he's doing. I think this guy goes third anyways, right? And this spot looks so fucking bad, right? Like, he's like 40 gold level 6. I don't know how. I think it's just because he has lucky gloves, so he just lucked out and has a bunch of items. I would never expect this guy to be top 4. Guys, I find another Azir. I'm kind of high rolling a lot of these things, right? But that's what happens, right? Don't get upset that I high rolled in this game. I'll let you know that I definitely low rolled in some of my games because I lost all my LP anyways, right? But that's how it is in TFT. Some games you have really easy games like this one. But the thing is, being fluid and understanding when you see something to pivot towards it, right? I would have done the same thing if I saw a Lilia, right? This is a Syndra. If I saw a Lilia, if I saw an Annie, if I saw like any 4 cost, a lot of the times, like, you know, I would have been contesting a reroll line, right? But instead I found a Syndra, right? The guy that's like upset that I found a Syndra early, which was this guy, right? That was pinging me, that was pinging my Syndra, or at least I'm assuming he's pinging my Syndra, right? I would have contested him if I didn't find that Syndra, right? I was angling towards Zyra Shen, right? And I had more Shens than him at the start of the game. You know what I mean? Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Right, like I would have been playing a ghostly board. Anyways, I don't have a Shred component, so I make Shred on Azir because, you know, hopefully I'm Set paired, I'm Azir paired. I'm just going to go 9 and roll for them, upgrade both of them. I should be fine, call it a day. I put IE on Set because it's pretty good, right? Just to have like crit on the big drop, right, when he does the big jump up. Here I'm on the wrong side, I think. I really want to kill this Lee Sin first, right? But it's fine. It works out. This match was really good for Syndra because Syndra just pumps out a lot of damage, right? And having this Azir, a lot of people don't really value the Azir that much because it's something that you sometimes don't hit on level 8. This Azir matters a lot. It matters so much, right? Because, like, especially in today's meta, you always have boards where there's, like, typically a dual carry, right? You can never really cut it with just one carry. Like, that's the problem with, like, Ashe board a lot of the time. Like, a lot of times with, like, the Ashe board, if you don't get, like, an itemized Set or, like, really aggressively itemized frontline or a 6 sniper, sometimes you fall off and then you just go bot 4, right? That's what I find. Even though, like, Ashe is one of the more reliable boards because you can, like, save a lot of HP. It's like if you're playing the Ashe board from behind, and you don't have a dual carry in that comp, typically it's typically like random Aphelios as your dual carry. Sometimes you just like die, you just bleed out and die, right? Especially if people hit their units really hard. Ashe is really good at playing from like a really ahead position because it's like you preserve so much HP because your board's really cheap and easy to hit. So you're like, you spike and you're relatively strong in all of stage 5, and you might not necessarily win because you need to like high roll something in terms of augment and or like other things. But you kind of run into those type of situations. Anyways, the thing that I'm thinking now is I have a lot of HP. I'm going to be level 9. What we're trying to do is convert this to a win, right? What you always have to do is you can't just look at it and be like, oh, I'm top 4, and then just like sit back in your chair, change the Spotify playlist, like chill out and do all sorts of other stuff, like when you have spots like this, especially when you're climbing in something like Master, this matters a lot in Diamond as well, I think, right? I'm trying to like list elos where like, just getting a top 4 isn't enough a lot of the time. Your gains, especially like, or this applies in every rank, if your like MMR gets screwed up a little bit, right? Sometimes when you're climbing really fast, your MMR gets really bad, so like your gains are a lot lower than your gains are a lot lower than what you would lose in your loss, right? Like sometimes going 8th you'll lose like 60, and going 1st you'll only gain like 30, and you're like, oh shit, this is miserable, I hate this, my life is bad, I'm gonna make a new account, my MMR is bad, right? I'll talk about this in some of the guides that or guides that might come out later, right? But how do I phrase it? The main thing is anyway, I think I lose to this ghostly player. God damn it, just too many items. Oh, I just win. Nice. Fuck this guy, he was pinging me. I'm pretty sure he was. It's fine, I'm not actually upset at him. I think he just lucked out. Look how many thieves gloves he has, right? Like he got so strong off of his augments, like his prismatic, that it's like, bro, like he's ghostly everybody 3-star, natural to everybody. Like there's times where I'm in that spot and I just go like 8th because I just don't have enough items for everybody to like make them tanky. But anyways, here I just taken a 0 item, right? This guy just took the Dryad emblem, but I'm pretty sure that's the Syndra player, so he's trying to play like 6 Dryad Syndra, right? But I have better augments, so I'm pretty sure I'll do better. I went to level 9, I rolled a little bit. I'm trying to figure out who to put in. I just put in a random Nautilus, right? Nautilus gives stun. There's not much else I can play. I could play an Invoker. I'm not sure what the max cap is. Like typically, like sometimes I play Alune instead of this Nautilus because it gives my set Umbral Shield and Execute, which sometimes can just happen. Like it could just win a fight, right? It's not substantial. It's like what, like 5% Execute or 10% Execute. But now that I have a set 2 and I might itemize the set, it's like maybe that's good, right? Question mark. I don't know for sure. Here I position opposite side of the Syndra, right? I'm kind of was hoping that my set would just jump this way, but I kind of in my head I figured that like I'd rather like deal with the Ornn later, right? Or at least that's my thought process. This guy is pretty strong, right? They spiked with all of their stats, right? But their augments aren't that great for combat, right? They have Cybernetic Bulk, which gives a lot of HP, mind you, but we're playing Dryad comp, so it's like it's like, drop in the bucket kind of thing. But there's 6 Dryad, and I think 7 Faded, right? Which is like a very, very strong version of the board. But I have Baboom and Harm Assist, so it's like, I think I have comparable in terms of strength. Here, I don't know why I position opposite. I position opposite side of the Lee Sin because there's the Irelia, right? The thing with Irelia is Irelia hits the 4 closest units. So here I end up being like what I would consider wrong side, right? You want to usually be on the opposite side of the Irelia because Irelia hits like this unit and then she hits like 4 closest units. So sometimes your Syndra or your backline unit just fucking dies, right? And as you can see here, my front line died, Lee Sin wrapped. I just lost this fight, right? That's what I mean. It was definitely wrong side. Because, like, usually if the Lee Sin is here and your Ornn is here, the Lee Sin gets stuck on the Ornn. But if, like, all the duelists kill the Ornn and kill this and then wrap and then plus the Irelia damage, it's just too much to deal with, right? So, like, in those situations, you just want to be on opposite side. Now, I do get, like, a damage buff as soon as I find this Azir. So, I'm not too, like, how do I phrase it? I'm not too worried about, like, dealing with that. Alune gives Invoker and Umbral. I decided to put that in and try it out, right? Because, like, Alune's a decent unit, right? Could do some extra damage. And the set has good item, right? So that's pretty good. Invoker also helps everybody cast a little bit. I don't know if it fucks up with the timing on Syndra, but Syndra, this is blue buff Syndra, so it's not as bad, right? Blue buff Nashor Syndra, it's not like the adaptive helm one where it might be bad. Here I'm just rolling for a 0-2. I hit a 0-2. This guy's really fucking strong, the duelist guy, because not only does he have like all the duelist units, he also has like Lee Sin. He also has Lee Sin, Irelia, Wukong. But yeah, the Alune might randomly execute and the set might randomly execute. Now I have 3 item Azir. I decided to go for Azir items instead of set items because I think that the Azir damage is very important, especially in like chewing through a front line in some of these like mirror matchups. And as you can see, I beat this guy just on augments and upgrades, right? Basically has 3 non-important augments. It was kind of close, but I basically rolled for like Azir 2 and everything. I'm just holding these Nars the whole game because fuck it, if I hit Nar 3, I hit Nar 3. I'm kind of down, right? Upgrading a Loon might not be necessary. This is like this part where I'm not too sure about, right? If I'm able to go 10, right? Like if I'm able to make it to level 10, like this guy made it to level 10. I don't know why he went level 10, but whatever. Also, the ghostly guy went 4th, but that was pretty good for that spot. I thought he went 3rd, but that makes more sense looking at the boards, right? The Syndra guy who was also playing Syndra, is very strong. I'm just stronger than that guy. Here I'm on wrong side again. Right, I really want to be on opposite side of this Irelia. You'll see when the Irelia does the damage, right? So now she's kind of snaking, and then she's gonna do like that whole like bang, 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 bang. But now I'm too scaled, right? Because I have this Azir. As you can see, I just melted everybody, right? The Irelia is doing damage, yes, but the Azir just does way more. That's what I mean by setting up the dual carry. This is like the win con of the game, right? Sometimes you're stuck looking for Syndra. You're just in a fucked up spot. Everything's bad. You hate everything. Life is miserable. I don't have any frontline items. My item economy is pretty shit as well this game. I think I would get punished in some other lobbies if other people were a little bit stronger. But I'm fighting against like a worse version of my board where these frontlines don't matter as much. But typically, you don't play a Loon. You typically play like any legendary unit that kind of works well with your board, right? So the other guy's playing like an Udyr, for example, which is pretty good. Here, because I have so much HP, I might just win this fight here. But if I don't win, here I'm on wrong side for sure because this fucking Udyr might stun my Syndra and then everything goes bad, right? But as you can see, even though this guy's like 7 faded, level 10, multiple Dryad, I have the Azir too, and that's like the main thing, right? I just have way more damage output. Like I have so much damage that it's not even close, right? There's not even there's no reason to like you know what I mean? It's just fucking over. Here it's either Faded Umbral Emblem or Hodge. I think I just end up taking the Umbral Emblem, right? Because then I can just play somebody instead. I could play like a legendary unit instead of a Loon and still have the Execute, right? That's my thought process at least. So I just put Execute on Kindred. I can drop this Loon. I can play like any frontline unit. That's like my thought process. I hit Ari here. Oh, I think I put Ari in the front just to like clump up, right? I'm trying to clump so that my units don't just randomly die. Here I put in Nautilus. I'm just gonna roll for like a Nautilus 2. Udyr is also good. I might put in Udyr instead. But yeah, just like because the Faded Emblem doesn't matter that much because I don't want to drop this because he's Behemoth, right? Like, you know, there's no reason to drop Thresh. There's no reason to drop Set. There's no reason to drop Ari because I'm pairing it with my Syndra. And there's no reason to drop Kindred because it's, that's why I didn't take the Faded Emblem, right? Now, I could have taken the Faded Emblem, pivot to, like, 7 Faded. But, like, without a Dryad Emblem, it kind of feels bad. Here, I'm on what I would consider right side because I want to avoid this Irelia just randomly, like, killing units. But I kind of get wiped, right? So maybe it is a fight on same side situation. This is what I mean by like usually want to burst down the Lee Sin as soon as possible. Especially if you can kill him before he gets his Titan stacks up. That's really useful a lot of the time. But yeah, as soon as I hit one of these 2-starred, I'm probably going to play that unit instead. So now I have this in. I don't have Nar 3, but I do have some lives to work with, right? I just have to beat this guy one time, which is like the position of just being ahead, right? They're level 9. I'm rolling. I could have maybe greeted to go level 10. Level 10, you can fit in some crazy shit like 4 Warden. You know, you can fit in like 4 Arcanist. You can fit in like all these extra traits and stuff. But, you know, in my head, I feel like it's fine. I'm on same side again because I was just focused on my board. I think I just RNG win one of these fights because I'm so fucking strong. Now I have Nautilus, and Nautilus stun is pretty significant. So I just, like, basically having that Nautilus upgrade, the last fight was kind of close. I just lived long enough to make a nuisance of myself, right? Like, if we go back and we look at the, specifically here, right? I didn't really position or change anything. This guy's very strong, has the training dummy, good combat. I just shuffle my position a little bit. I put the Nautilus slightly in the back line, right? The reason I moved him back one line is because I don't want him to get aggroed first. I think he gets aggroed anyways. Yeah. So he gets immediately aggroed. I think I get one Nautilus stun off. I don't even get a stun off. Oh, it's just enough. He just stalled enough, right? I thought the Nautilus stunned the Irelia, and that's why I won this fight. No, it's just like having an extra unit that just wasted enough time for my Syndra to get one more cast off to kill like some units, right? That's how close the fight was. But like if we scaled, I feel like that's what I mean. I would have eventually found a win con, because like I'm too swollen on HP, right? I have so much HP on my Dryads. If I had like any tank items, I think I beat that guy, right? Because he wouldn't be able to front to back me. And yeah, so it ends up being a win. Now, game was obviously a little bit of high roll. Not all your games are going to look like that, but some of your games are going to look like that. And you have to make sure to understand, like, you know, itemize your Syndra, get to a 0-2, get to level 9. There's not much that you need on level 9 unless you're, like, playing towards these, like, high capped boards. And yeah, and it's a very, very fun comp. As you can see, like, there wasn't, like, I couldn't show you some of, like, the crazy shit, because in this lobby, I feel like a lot of people were kind of trolling. There wasn't really, like, a good Lilia player, right? The Lilia board was very weak. There wasn't good, like, mixture of like meta comps. Like there wasn't an Ashe player in the entire lobby, right? But typically what you would see is that this comp does really well. It has really good matchups, and I'm starting to really enjoy it. So whenever I have like a faded opener or a good Dryad spot, you could just like kind of play towards this. I did have the out of playing towards like Kindred 3 and that stuff, but because there was another faded player, and I already knew that I was probably going to hit Syndra 2 guaranteed because I get like the free Syndra from champion delivery, I decided to just like commit to faded line, right? If I had a Dryad +1 and I had a bunch of Kindreds, I could have also gone Boom Kindred and just swapped the Syndra items onto the Kindred. That would have been a viable top 4 as well. But yeah, just, you know, simple, easy game. I'll probably have tutorials out like on Monday, by the way. I kind of been leading towards having to do them, but I've just been super busy. Alright, see ya. Bye.